Okay, good evening everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight for our upfront meetup. So, any first timers here? Anyone for the first time at upfront? Whoa! Special welcome to you. So you're in for a treat, I guess, because this is not any ordinary upfront meetup tonight. It's actually upfront 50. And I know there has been some confusion on Twitter, but it's actually not our 50th birthday. We're not quite that old, but yeah, we've been putting this on for 50 times now here at Co.up co-working space, so welcome. Yeah, it's been more than 4 years since we started doing this meetup, and I think it's a good time to, for once, put the organizers up here for more than just saying welcome. So say hi to Alex, Max, Kata, and me. That's Krise. And we thought... Thank you. Yeah, we thought it's a good time to do a little review and take a look back what happened in the last 50 meetups. So the first ever upfront, don't worry, there's not a slide for every single meetup. So the first ever meetup happened in February 2010. And well, the tech scene and everything in Berlin was quite a bit different than from it is today. So this whole co-working thing was still very new, like all the big newspapers were writing about it, and was like the big crazy thing to do. And I think Beta House just became 1 year old around this time, and Co.up actually just moved into this building. Yeah, and also a lot of companies who later also presented here, like SoundCloud, for example, Gitzi, who's not among us anymore, or Sechs Wunderkinder were just born or didn't even exist then. And also I think no one had even heard of skeuomorphism then, or didn't know what it meant at least. And yeah, so this whole co-op space happened to be the place where I worked back then, when I was still pretty fresh in Berlin myself, and it was a pretty nerdy co-working space. Like a lot of programmers and developers hung out there, which meant basically every other night some user group happened, which is a group of users of some technology or programming language, and they usually meet in the evenings, hang out, discuss their topics and problems, connect to each other, move jobs and offers around, and well, have a good time. And I have to say, as a designer, I was kind of jealous of that because, well, I didn't really care about Ruby or PHP, which was still very big back then. But there were great people in the co-working space who were organizing these big user groups, and I wanted to be part of it. But, well, there was just no one to discuss HTML or CSS with, and also no women. Well, almost. Actually, a friend of mine I worked with back then, Claudine, who sadly can't be here tonight, we felt the same pain that we just wanted to talk about our topics. So we decided to go DIY and call our friends and do our first gathering of designers and designers who work in the web. So we started what is now called Upfront. What we wanted to do is just meet other people, hang out, and have other users or just other people who are excited about CSS properties for hours or get into fights about semantic HTML. So yeah, Upfront somewhat started out as a user group for HTML and CSS, which explains the UG in our domain until today. But quickly we evolved to a meetup that, well, was just much more than just talking about semantic markup and so on. We were lucky from the beginning to have a quite diverse speaker and also audience, and they came from all disciplines, and apparently we struck a nerve, and there were a lot of people who arrived right after their studies or from wherever they came from in Berlin and felt like, yeah, we want people who do web design but who are not traditional designers and also not programmers, and we just want to talk and connect. So that worked, and Upfront became this pretty interdisciplinary meetup pretty quickly. By the way, the upfront part of the name you might be curious about as well. One of our founding members, Jens Nikolaus, who's not here yet, came up with that, and I think it's still a pretty good word because it doesn't involve design and definitely not any language or technology. It just means it's people who want to talk upfront about topics that are relevant to them and their profession. So, the first upfront meetup ever happened in February 2010. There are no photos or not even a note on our website, so you just gotta believe me that it happened back then because it was in my calendar. And if I remember correctly, we were 5 people sitting on the 2 ancient couches upstairs at co.up. I think they're hopefully on the trash now. Yeah, sitting in a circle and just discussing what is this thing, what do we want to do. And that changed quickly. Over a year after we started, things were getting busy. We were still using the small lounge room in the upstairs floor of co.up, and it just wasn't working out anymore. Like, really. So we moved to the bigger room upstairs, but also that got cozy very quickly, although we found it very satisfying that after a while we managed to outnumber the JavaScript user group. We love you guys. Luckily, in summer 2012, a solution presented itself and co.op expanded. They rented the 3rd floor, which is where we're sitting right now. And the bigger space attracted more people as well, so actually on one very hot summer night we ran out of chairs, so we were forced to improvise a little bit. And some of you might remember that last minute we went downstairs to the kind people of the doner shop there, who actually gave us their benches. Actually, they didn't give us the benches for free, so not even a doner with it. So we had to buy ones, which we then donated for co.op, and also co.op did like a big little fundraising that year to buy more chairs, and yeah. Thanks again, co.op, for being the most awesome space ever, because they're doing this all for free to enable user groups like this. So, 4 years later, we're at number 50, and in those 50 upfront editions, we were very lucky to learn a lot, to hear amazing talks on all sorts of topics, from be it UX design, big development, whatever. But most importantly, we met and connected so many people. I can't believe that just a bit more than 4 years ago, I arrived in Berlin and I couldn't find other designers who had the exact same problems as I am, and now there's more people than I managed to talk to every evening. So that's amazing. Thank you for that. And well, after so many meetups, we also collected quite a few numbers and statistics, and this is where I hand over to Alex, who will tell you a bit about this.
Okay, numbers. Right, so we did 50 events, obviously. We had 106 different speakers, more or less. Our notes are somewhat dodgy, but around about, yeah. There were 9 organizers all in all, which I'll talk to you about later. We broke quite a lot of these old rubbish chairs, which are behind the curtain. So I'm very thankful to co.op that they bought the new square ones, because the old ones were terrible. We got about 45,000 page views on our humble little GitHub Pages site over the years. Almost 400 commits with all the changes and the schedules and all that. So open source works for content as well. 9 contributors to that, which are incidentally not the same 9, which is interesting. 929 people on Facebook, 1,394 followers on Twitter, which is pretty amazing. It's probably going to go down now, because every time you brag about your followers, people unfollow you. And surprisingly, Meetup works really well, which we weren't expecting at all, but yeah, that totally works for us too. And since we want to be as transparent as possible, we're going to make our cash flow transparent to you as well. Oh, and yes, lots of money. Cash flow. Well, no sponsors, obviously. So no profit either, because we don't take any money from anyone. What do we spend money on? We spend money on, well, the domain, which is in Uganda, if anyone was wondering. Which leads to a lot of confused rummaging through the spam folder, because spam filters seem to think that, you know, Ugandan businessmen are kind of close to Nigerian princes. So yeah, so the domain is 20 euros a year. Sending the money to Uganda is 60 euros a year. And Meetup is really expensive. And yeah, we left hundreds of euros at Marouche downstairs to have last-minute food. But that basically means that all of the money that is made from drinks goes to the wonderful people of the co-op co-working space. So basically for us, this is kind of a labor of love, and we're paying everything ourselves, including, you know, the benches and the food and, well, food, some of the drinks. So apropos, there is Prosecco over there, and there is more Prosecco in the bottom of the fridge, so feel free to just, you know, drink that. And we put out, for the first time ever, we put out some tip jars in the form of a survey, because we'd like to know how we're doing, and we'd also like to have your money. So there's 3 tip jars with opinions on them, and you can state your opinion by financing us. You can also just talk to us, it's fine. Yeah, that's basically, I think, all the numbers. No, wait, I don't know what's next. We have weird slides. Oh yeah, is that me? It is me, amazing. So we kind of managed to get some really cool speakers from quite a lot of really cool companies, and many of these talks were really properly open and honest and giving great insights into the companies and teams and especially processes. So we got to see how Ableton does user testing and hardware prototyping, which I found really interesting. We got to see how Eden Spiekermann does front-end concepts and development, how Apple works behind the scenes, and how Clue approaches user-centered design. And all of these things have been really enlightening and often also very entertaining. And it kind of also makes Upfront kind of special in a way, because where else would you get to see that? So we'd like to thank them all for coming. I don't know if anyone's here from any of these, but thank you. Yeah. Let's do some really basic statistics. What languages are we talking about at Upfront? So this is the number of talks on the left axis, just to make that clear. So 2010 was still interesting because that is actually ActionScript. There were 2 Flash talks in 2010, and that is also the entirety of all Flash talks we ever had. CSS was really strong in that year, but it kind of, you know, just arranged itself around about 3. I have a laser pointer, I just noticed, that's amazing. JavaScript kind of built up a solid lead, I think. Yeah, thought you'd like that. Yeah. And I think it's gonna get to 5 this year, probably. And we've had a newcomer this year. That is actually Japanese. Nice. Right. Some of the numbers didn't change in our favor. So this is, you may guess it. This is the price of a Moscow Mule at our favorite bar, where we will be going later on. That's kind of depressing, actually, but there is help, because we have that stamp which is over there on the table. If you have that stamp stamped to your wrist, they'll give you 50 cents off every drink, which is nice, and that helps a bit. Yeah, so we're going to show you where that is later. If you're a first timer, just follow everyone else, and we're going to have a drink there afterwards. Take a photo of the crowd. And show them, please, yeah. Ask them what they were thinking. Okay, but yeah, we've got some more upfront facts for you, actually, and these are from Max.
Yeah, exactly. One of the many things that I personally like the most about Upfront is just how many different people from the community we have in our audience and also in our speaker lineup. And some of those people traveled like really long distances. For example, Angelina Fabro came all the way from Vancouver to Berlin to talk about Firefox OS. We also had Max Ogden from Oakland. Maybe actually we can do a little quiz. Who do you think traveled the most from those 2, or who traveled the longer distance? Vancouver and Oakland to Berlin. Got a clue?
Air miles, Oakland.
All right. But then we discovered that, I'll reveal in a second, don't worry, that this time we have Tim Lucas speaking, and that makes him the definite winner. With almost 60,000 kilometers compared to the other 2. And yeah, he's about to speak in a bit, so don't go anywhere, because he went here to talk. And yeah, I'll go over to Katharina.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, Australia, that's really impressive. I hope you're not too jet-lagged, Tim, later. Yeah, I'm going to, I just wanted to thank every speaker actually who came up to talk here at Upfront, no matter which obstacles, if it was the distance, they had to overcome. And of course, that also counts for audience. First-timers, we have a lot of them here, like we saw. We're just so happy to hear from people who came to Upfront for the first time and read it on Twitter. You can also tell us in person, but that's also very efficient and also a little bit free advertising for us. It's just really great. And also when people regret when they miss out on a meetup for once, that's also nice to hear, read some tweets from remote. A little reminder. Yeah, that's just so much positive feedback and support, and it means a lot. It's basically what we are all doing this for, and why people keep coming here. So please keep up the good vibes and tweet about it. Like, if you liked it, of course. If you have anything negative to say, you can better come to us in person. But yeah, I'm just stressing this because, of course, it's not only important to us, but it's also important to our speakers. For example, Natalia was a speaker back in 2013. She came from Poland to speak here. And yeah, just like to point her out separately because for once it was one of my favorite talks ever at Upfront. She talked about, she gave some examples in her talk how what kind of perceptual issues people with Asperger's syndrome have with bad UX design, and how could designers implement her insights into their work, and that was really interesting and inspiring. And it was really great to see how much love Natalia got back during and after her talk from the Upfront audience. For her, it really, that evening marked a great starting point in public speaking. She actually spoke at the WWDC this year. So just as an example how important positive feedback can be. Yeah, looking back, actually it's great to recall some of these countless true moments we've had here at Upfront. True moments being moments when everybody in the audience just agrees with the speaker who's just made a really true point. For example, this is Ed from Ableton, and he talked about musical interfaces, and he asked what, and he asked in his talk more rhetorically if an oboe would have passed user testing if there had been user tests back when they invented like traditional instruments like oboes. And of course the answer would be probably they would not have, they would have all failed, like violins and all these traditional instruments would have failed. That was one of those true moments. Another one was from Victor Mark when he was here talking about working with human beings, more project management kind of talk. And he pointed out that everybody knows when you're working as a team and everybody's just sick of fucking everything, mind my language. And this is how he visualized this true moment. And we think this is just the best slide ever, and that's why he deserves a special title. Obviously, if there is a best slide, then there also is a worst. It honestly never got any worse than this. So, yeah. Speaking of good and bad, more in general, what we really love most about the Upfront community is that it feels very strongly about certain values, such as diversity, for example. Yeah, you can see here, diversity is always a big topic. Diversity in terms of our range of topics, like Kristina already pointed out, disciplines and fields of expertise, speakers with various backgrounds and gender. But looking into the gender ratio of Upfront speakers since the beginning, this is the result, as you can figure. Of course, looking at other tech user groups, this is a little bit better than average, probably. It's not at all terrible, but we think we could do better, and we would like to do better, actually. So hereby I take the chance and invite especially women here in the audience to submit their talks to our website or just get in touch with us. Also, you here as our present audience could help to achieve more diversity among speakers by letting the right ones know about us. Or yeah, if you happen to know someone, send them our way. We could reach out to them. We would really appreciate this. So we do our best that at Upfront 100, at least, this shows a different picture. Yeah. So this review is now getting to an end. And before I hand over for the last points we want to make, I just wanted to take the chance and thank everyone who's helped to organize this since the beginning. So this is, yeah. This is all of them, like the first 4 you have seen. Here, Karl, I've seen him in the audience, and Robin, Hannes, Claudine, and Jens also being mentioned before, and yeah, awesome people. So, who's next? Yeah, that's true. It says here.
Okay. Right. Okay, credits. Right, for inspiring us to do this in the first place, of course, the other user groups, JS and Ruby and PHP. I have that as notes, don't worry. I just want to have all the speakers run through. So especially Janel, Robin, Till, and Thilo, and everyone from co.up for making this space available to us at no cost, which is still amazing. Alex from Upfront for all the organizational things, for always stocking up the fridge, which is wonderful. Ivan for filming, also thanks for that. And yeah, everyone who spoke, basically, and everyone who came to see everyone speak, everyone who suggested speakers, everyone who twittered about us, just everyone who makes this possible in the way that it just happened for the past 4 years. It was completely amazing. Basically, we couldn't have done this without you. So a big round of applause to all of you yourself.